Alright, welcome to our first tutorial in class. This time it's gonna be just a simple donut. We'll add some icing and some randomly colored sprinkles. What you're seeing on the screen is just a bit of a preview of what it's going to look like when it's all done. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do with 3ds Max open is we're going to go ahead and set up our project folder. So up here in the File tab on the top left, we're going to come down to Project. We're going to create from current, and you're going to get a pop-up that looks like this. It should navigate automatically to your Documents folder. Okay, if it doesn't and you end up in, say, your 3ds Max folder, that's fine. Just click on Documents, go ahead and create a new folder in here with your last name underscore first name, then open that up. Inside of here is where you're going to create your folder. So create a new folder, and I'll just name this Donut. Select that just by pressing it once and then press select folder, and now your project will be completely set up in there, and I'll show you that here in a little bit. So the way we're going to get started on this is by creating a standard shape, standard primitive shape called a torus. So in your command panel on the right, click on the Create menu tab under Geometry. Make sure you have standard primitives for the drop down and come down here to torus. Just click on it once, and then you can click down and hold on the left mouse button to create the rounded shape, then let go. You can create the thickness of it. Click once more and you're good. Then right click to close to turn off the torus button. Now, something to note here is when you're creating shapes, 3ds Max is going to assign random colors. That's not how it's done in the professional world. You use a standard material that we're going to create right now, and we're going to apply it, and that's the material that's going to be used for all of your modeling. So let's go ahead and get that done out of the way first. So on your keyboard, go ahead and press M to access the material editor. So I already have one up here. I called it Modeling Matte. What it's going to look like is when I apply it to this, it's going to have just a nice, clean, fresh material. Then I'll change the object color to black so that when I turn on the edge mode, then everything is uniform, transparent, and professionally looking. So the way we create this model, this material is, we're going to grab a physical material and just drag it out into our scene. We're going to go ahead and change our base color here. We're going to bring it down in red to 180, green to 180, blue to 180, and then press OK. Under here in reflections, we're going to actually bump up this reflection to probably around 0.3. And if you double click on the sphere picture, then you can see where it's at a larger display. But if you look, as we increase the roughness, so if I go 0.5, you can see that this changes, right? So let's go with we'll stick with 0.3. 0.3 is fine. You can see there's a little bit of a reflection and highlight here, which is what we want. Now, we need to name our materials. I don't ever want to see material number, whatever. There needs to be a name. So in this case, you're going to name it Modeling Clay. The next thing you're going to want to do is create yourself a material library so that you can have these materials for later use. And then you don't have to keep recreating it. So what we're going to do is, inside of our material library panel on the left, we're going to right click we're going to choose New Material Library. And what we're going to do is, you can see that it goes to, now that we're here, a Material Libraries folder. If we click on this drop down, you're going to see that it's actually in your donut folder. So if you click on your donut folder, you're going to see all the files or folders that have been created for this project. While we're creating this, I'll kind of go over them. The ones that you're going to need: auto backup, which is going to be where all your backups are for as it saves. Your material libraries is where this is going to end up going. That's going to hold your material libraries that you create. Your render output is going to be where your rendered images end up when you press the render button. And your scenes are going to be where your scenes are saved in 3ds Max files. You have some other ones, import, exports. Those are for if you're importing objects or models into your scene. You can put them there, and that's where 3ds Max will automatically go to look for them. If you export your donut later on for like 3D printing for whatever reason, then it'll end up here in your exports folder. Scene assets are just other random assets that you can use and have in there, such as images and things like that. So go ahead and double click on your material libraries. This one is going to be called, just put your last name underscore materials, and then that'll be fine. And then press save. So once you have that, go ahead and click on your donut, right click on your modeling clay, and press assign material to selection. We don't need that now, so we can change that up. Now, with your torus still selected, go ahead and go over to the modifier tab in your command panel. We're going to make some adjustments to the overall shape. So that's going to be 1.5, and the radius roughly is fine. I'm going to do 0.75 and radius number 2. If I press the Z key on my keyboard, then you'll see that it's a bit smaller in it, but it zooms in and it's a little bit more representative of the actual size of a donut. Alright, from here we need to give it a little bit of a shape, or more shape, randomized, because it's just perfectly smooth and cylindrical. So we're going to go to the modifiers list, and we're going to type in noise. We're going to add a noise modifier to it. In this case, we're going to go ahead and just play around with numbers and see what we like. As you change the numbers and the strength of it, so the scale and the strength, so let's go with 1 on the X, we'll go with 2 on the Y, and 1 on the Z. You can see that it starts to change as I manipulate these, right? So if I change the scale down to say 3.3 and press enter, you can see that it really gets a little bit wonky there. So let's go with 1.25, and we'll try 1.9, and we'll try 0.8. So now if we look at it, the donut's not perfectly round because sometimes there's a little bit of deviation and issues with the breading as it's. Alright, this is Mr. Morris from the future reminding you to save your work. So go up here to File. If it's your first time saving, go to Save As, or you can press Control-Shift-S. Control-Shift-S. It's going to go to your scenes folder automatically. Okay, so you don't have to do anything about it. And you're just going to name it what it is. This is the first in the donut series, so make sure you're saving it. Since I've already saved it once, I'm going to go ahead and instead of overwriting it, I'm just going to add a little B afterwards so that I know it's the second time saving it. Just like that. And now you saved it. Alright, make sure to save regularly and that you save in version files. So instead, don't just press Control S, always press Control-Shift-S. we're gonna save it and then save it with a new letter so that you know it's a new version. That'll allow you to be able to go back easier and fix any errors or correct things that you may have to do from an earlier version. It's being fried. And so you can do it that way. Remember, don't just copy the numbers I'm doing. I want you to actually experiment and play around with this. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to lock that in by adding an edit poly modifier to it. So click on your materials. We're going to go down to edit poly and lock that in. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our front mode. So press F on your keyboard, front mode. Then you press Z to zoom in. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my shaded view by pressing F3. And over here in our sub-object selections, you have vertices, edges, borders, polygons, and elements. If I press 1 on the keyboard, not the 10 key, but the top row keyboard numbers, it chooses vertex mode. 2 will select edge mode, 3 will select the borders, and 4 will select the polygons, and 5 will select the whole element. The element is the object itself in the selection. Polygons are the individual faces. The borders, you're not going to be able to do it here because there's not a border, but it would select the outermost edge before it cuts off. The edge is just going to select that, the edges, and the vertices is going to select the vertices. What we want is polygon, so press 4 on your keyboard and go ahead and just highlight this top 2 layers right there. What we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this top layer and turn it, and we're going to use that as the base for our icing. So real quick, let's go ahead and press W on our keyboard. We're going to hold Control Shift and then grab this green arrow and just drag it up a little bit in the air there. And then make sure you choose Clone to Object because we want it to be a separate object. And then we're going to type in icing and press OK or press Enter. And now you can see that it's a separate object from itself. You can see it here in our layer panel over here. So go ahead and turn off, if you haven't already, turn off the polygon mode, because now what we need to do, actually we need to name this. So up here, so you can name your objects a couple of different ways. You can do it up here in the modifier, and just type in donut, or you can type in the breading, whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'm going to type in donut. You can also, over here in your Scene Explorer, or not Scene Explorer, your layer panel, you can, let's see, can you right click and rename it? Yeah, right click, and then down here towards the bottom, you can choose rename. It's right under clone, and then you can type in your name that way. It's easier for me just to come over here and just rename it that way though. Alright, go ahead and select your icing. What we need to do is we're just going to drag this down a little bit so that it's hovering right over top of it, just like that. And so that's set up there. What we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and, what do we want to do next? We're going to go ahead and start messing with this. So it's already an editable poly. So let's go ahead and just press 2 on your keyboard and grab the edge mode. And we're just going to grab some of these edges. We're going to hold just the shift key. And actually, before we do that, let's scroll down some. And actually no, that'll be fine. It should be fine. Just hold shift and drag down on the Y and come down here and you're gonna create now some new geometry. You're extruding some of these shapes and make it a bit random. Don't just make it all the same size, because what these are going to end up being when I'm done is the dripping of the icing. And we're just going to work our way all the way around. Right, and we're going to do the same thing for the inside. Alright. Now that we have that going, next thing we're going to do is we can press 2 to turn that off. And let's just go ahead and throw a new modifier on there. This time it's going to be a shell modifier. So you can type in what you're looking for after clicking on the drop down. It'll pop up shell. Now you can see it's a little bit large for this, so we're going to go ahead and decrease those sizes some. We're going to go ahead and make the inner amount. Actually, let's decrease the outer amount first so we can see what we're working with. Let's see. 0.03 looks about good for that. Let's see what we can do with the inner amount. We'll do that one to be, let's see. Click on the donut. If you press Alt X, you can see, you can put it in transparency mode. So that's what I did. I clicked on the donut and then pressed Alt X to toggle the transparency. Clicking back on the icing, I can increase the inner amount some too. Something, 0.06 will be fine. That way it looks like it. That way cuts into the breading of the donut some, and it'll look like more like the outside is not. It is actually just running down it because it'll have cut the geometry some. All right, back on edit. With the shell selected, what we can do then is add a turbo smooth and just get an idea of what it's going to look like. And in our iterations, we can change that to 2. And so you can already see that the icing is starting to take shape some. These little ends of the droplets are a bit on the wider side. So if we click on the icing and click on Editable Poly on the bottom of our modifier stack, this button right here next to the pin will actually allow you to show the end result. So if we press 1 and we start selecting these vertices right here, we can press the R for scale and start bringing them in, and we can actually see how that's going to start taking shape some on these. So go ahead and just start doing that to some of these, dragging these 2 vertices in closer to each other by using the scale tool. Again, that's the letter R on your keyboard. remember, everything you just did to the outside, we gotta do to the inside. So you're gonna select these ones also and bring them in. Alright, so now you can see there's still some of this part right here where like it's just hanging over. We can fix that by adding some edge loops. So what we're going to do is press 2 on our keyboard, the number 2. We're going to start selecting some of these edges. If you still have the scale tool, go ahead and just press Q for the selection mode, and you can just select those 2 edges right there. I'm actually going to go across, and while holding Control, select all of these side edges on the outside like this. While holding Control. Holding Control allows you to select multiple objects. If you hold the Alt and you select an object, it will deselect that individual sub-object. So, with all those edges selected, I'm going to come down here and our let's see, where is it? I believe it's under Edit Edges. Yep, Edit Edges, and we're going to choose Connect. We only need one, but go ahead and get used to pressing the Settings button there. And if you look, you'll be able to see where it's going to connect the next edge. If you want, you can turn this off and it'll show it more. That red line right there. And just press check mark to set that in. So now what we can do is we can come up here and we can actually start bringing out and bringing in some of these edges, or some of this geometry, so that it looks actually like it's forming or flowing around the donut. Maybe we'll bring that one in just a bit more. That one looks alright. And what I'm doing is I'm just looking for the ones that are really just sticking out right there and dragging them in closer to the breading. But you gotta be careful because you might end up with them getting distorted or warped a little too much. Let's see, and then this one right here. So if Now let's go ahead and we need to do the same thing on the inside. So press 2. We're going to select these edges here. Press Q on your keyboard so you can stay in your selection mode and not accidentally scale things. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to connect. Again, we're going to press this little settings window button. We're going to press the check mark. And then we can press 1 on the top keyboard or top number row. And we can just start checking those and making sure that those are good. So what we can do is come down here. Since we're already in transparency mode, you can kind of see already most of these are actually pretty decent. Just a few of them need a little bit of TLC. That one, we need to actually bring this out. There we go. Let's check this one over here. That one looks good. Those ones look good. Alright. Now that we have that going for us, what should we do next? I guess what we can do is we could probably lock all that in now. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and turn off that. Click on your donut, press Alt X so that comes around. Add some turbo smooth to the donut. So whoops, let's see, we're gonna try this again. Add a turbo smooth to the donut. Excuse me. And we're gonna bump that up to iterations 2. We're gonna add a little bit of noise to that again. And this time we're gonna bring this way down to like maybe 1. And then these are all gonna be sub 1 because we only want little small differences in it. So let's try 0.6. Let's try 0.65. Let's try 0.7. And that's a bit much. Let's bring our C down to 0.6 on that. Still a bit much, so let's see. Just starts. Let's go 0.06 instead on these. There we go. That's a bit better. It's still got some waviness. Like it just came out of the fryer, and just small little imperfections, which is fine. Got the icing going. I guess the next thing to do is to create the sprinkles. So before we do that, what we need to do is we need to collapse this so that it actually works with them. So to collapse the icing down together, what we're going to do is we're actually going to select the icing, come over here to the modifier per stack, and just right click inside of there, and we're going to go to collapse all. You're going to get this warning that tells you this removes everything in the stack, including creation parameters and any animations applied to the creation or modifier parameters. Are you sure you want to continue? Press hold and yes. Always press hold and yes. And then it will work that way. And it created an editable mesh that should have been an editable poly. I don't know why it did that. Let's Control Z and let's try this again. Maybe I need to put another editable poly on there to lock it all in. Yep, that's what I needed. So if yours says control edit turns into an editable mesh when you do this like that, see how it says editable mesh, just press Control Z, come over to the modifier list, type in edit, look for editable poly. This is going to lock in all those changes there, and so you can right click on it, go to collapse all, press hold yes again, and you'll see it now. It turns into an editable poly. The reason why we need it to be an editable poly is because what we're going to actually, I just saw something I need to fix. Let me Control Z that, and we're going to come down here, and we're actually going to take those vertices and bring them out some there, because they were cutting it a little too much. Alright. The rest of those look alright. Yep, rest of those are good. Alright. Turn that off, come back over here, and collapse all. Press hold yes. Alright. Now we're going to create some sprinkles. So I know in other videos I've said, I may have said, I don't know if I said this in other videos, but we should always have a reference, and we should. You should always have a reference for it. For what you're modeling. We shouldn't model technically from, what's it called? From memory, because our memory will fail us 99% of the time when it comes to 3D modeling. So to rectify that, let's go ahead and open up an internet browser, and we're gonna just type in donuts. All right, and you can see a large amount of donuts, and we're gonna look for donuts with sprinkles specifically. You can see there's a lot of length and size variations in the sprinkles. Some of them are rounded, some of them are cylindrical, some of them are just flat and circular. These ones right here are spherical. You can even see different things for icing, right? A little bit of glaze or extra icing drizzled right there. So always look and try to find good reference. Like this is good to here, because you can see that they're not all straight. Some of them are actually bent and curved. I kind of like that one. So let's go ahead and work on sprinkles that look kind of like these right here. All right, so as we are getting ready to create our sprinkles, what we're going to do is in our command panel, we're going to make sure we're on geometry in the create tab. We're going to click on where it says standard primitives and go to extended primitives. And we're going to choose this chamfer cylinder. The way this works is it creates a cylinder with an extra added step. So the first click determines the radius. When you let go, it determines the height. When you set the height by left clicking, then you have one more step where you set the fillet size or depth. So go ahead, left adds more fillet, right removes. Just add a little bit of a fillet for right now. We're going to adjust it more here in the parameters. So right click on that to set that in, and click on your modify. Go ahead and change this name to be sprinkle. And what we're gonna do for our radius is we're gonna set it to be, it's gotta be below 1. Let's try, make it 1.2 or 0.2. We're gonna change the height to be lower, probably about 1.1, and then our filleted edge will be 0.1 also. Now we're going to change our height segments to be 3 because we're going to add a bend modifier to it. We want our filleted edges to be a little more rounded, so we're going to change that to 3. So if I press Z to zoom in, you can see the changes that are going on. And then our sides, we don't need 12 sides. 8 will do us just fine. Now, with this selected, what we're going to do is we're going to add an edit poly modifier to it. And we're going to press 5 on the top row number keyboard pad, the top row keys. And that was going to give us our element selection. Go ahead and choose that and press A to turn on your angle snap tool, and then press E to access your rotate tool. And on the X axis, so that's going to be this red circle. Mine is yellow, but if I hover over a different circle, you'll see that it's red. So you're going to just rotate it till it's 90 degrees. If you can't see or to see the degrees that you're rotating at, look at the bottom. Let me fix that. Down here at the bottom where it says X, you can actually type in 90 degrees and it'll rotate it for you. Or you can just use the circles and then rotate it and look down there until you get to 90. Once that's done, you can go ahead and we're gonna set some stuff here. So if we turn off our element tab tool, then you're gonna see that our pivot point is actually down below, and we need to fix that. So we're gonna come over here to the hierarchy tab. We're gonna choose effect pivot point only, and we're gonna choose center to object for the alignment. Then press W on your keyboard, and we're gonna just bring this down here closer to the bottom, because that's where the icing is going to touch, or the sprinkle is going to be making contact with the icing. From here, we need to actually come over here to the utilities, and we're going to press this reset X form. That resets the, mine was already blue, but because I was testing things out, but yours will be gray by default. Press it so that it turns blue, and then choose reset selected. That resets all the transforms information and changes we've done to this. So I accidentally pressed it twice. We only did it once. So now what we can do is add a bend modifier to it by coming up here to the modifier list and typing in bend. From here, we're going to want to change our bend axis to be the Y, and then we're going to start bending it. And if I move the camera up so you can see it, you can see the bend being applied by the angle, and then the direction, we're going to we'll go ahead and make that 90. If we look at our reference, you can see some of them are bent more than others. So the bend is really going to be up to you how much you want that bent. So I'm going to bend mine probably about like that. So that's about 27.5. Alright, for this next step, what we need to do is we need to scatter our sprinkles all over our icing. So what we're going to do here is come over to our create tab. We're going to come down here to compound objects. We're going to use this scatter tool, but look at it's grayed out. That means we can't select it. So what we need to do is come back here to our modifier, right click, and collapse everything down together. Make sure you press hold yes. Now if we come back to our create panel, we can scatter it. And the way this works is we press scatter, and what we're going to want to do is we're going to choose move for right now. In a later video we could probably go over what each of these do, but move is what we want for right now. And then pick distribution object is what we're going to click, and that's going to, now we got to tell it what we want to scatter these on. So we're going to press the icing. Now you can see it fixes itself to the icing. If we scroll down to source object parameters, that's where we can actually adjust how many we want. So let's go with a high number. We'll say 1200. And you can see it's completely covered now. So we can change the size. We'll say 25%. And now it's a bit less covered. We can adjust the vertex chaos to mess with it some more, make it really look weird. Let's see. Distributing, let's go with you can go with random faces if you want. So it's going to be a random polygon face is going to be touching it, or you can choose area. I just prefer area personally. Alright, so from here what we need to do is we're going to add an edit poly to that. And we're going to choose element again. And so let's go to our front view by pressing F on the keyboard. Oop, there we go. And apparently the one I selected was not in the front, so that's fine. What we're going to do is we're actually going to select this whole thing right there. Actually, not the whole thing. Select this whole bottom half right here. And then we're going to hold Alt and deselect the icing because we don't want to do anything to that. And just press delete on your keyboard. And now what you're left with is some nice toppings there. Now you see how they're all facing the same direction, or rotated the same direction? That's not natural. So let's look at our donut preference here. You see they're all face in different directions there. So that's what we're going to do here by clicking on scatter. It's going to say if you change it, it may mess up the topology. That's fine. Just press hold and yes. And then we're going to come down here to transforms. Then we can start adjusting the transforms of our donuts, or our not donuts, our sprinkles. So we turn our X to 40. It'll show you what it does there. We can mess with our Y and our Z right there. So now it's more randomized. There's still a lot of let's see. 90 was probably bad for that. Let's go with 45. That's a bit better. 1200 is probably a lot of duplicates. Let's go ahead and cut that down to 700. And that's a bit better. Let's change our base scale some to, let's go with 7%. And now we can go back up to that 1200 number. There we go. Alright, that actually looks a lot better. So, duplicates 1200, base scale 7% of this original size, and then my rotations are 45x, 35y, and 35z. That gives us some pretty decent coverage and a good bit of randomization on the donuts. So, that's it for this video. In the next one, we will start creating the materials for it. I'll see you then.